Yeah, what are we talking about here? The most preferred one? I don't know what we're talking about yet. So first, you always should make a simple sentence in very general terms. Okay? What else? No paragraphs. Here we have, however, it's a good time we can split and make a separate paragraph. Okay? You're going to lose organization points if it looks like, look, this is just one big block. Okay? The examiner, to get good organization marks, the examiners want to see separate paragraphs that talk about different things. And the essay loses a lot of points because of this one word, people. So notice this. There's a noticeable decrease in public transportation where it dropped from 429 people to blah, blah, blah. A significant increase in the numbers of people who blah, blah, blah. We'll get back to that word people in a minute. So my tip here is always write an overview sentence. Right? This graph shows blah, 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 blah. Different modes of transportation. Okay? Separate the paragraphs and make sure your paragraphs show different parts. Remember that the IELTS score is asking right here. There's one that says clear progression. Okay? What it means is you go step by step by step. They want to see you talk about different things in different parts of your writing. Okay, finally, why did I say people is the biggest mistake? Yes?
I have to think about, like, to be more advanced English students or advanced speaker. And instead of using people, I can use biker, walker, driver.
Yeah, that's really good, yeah. He couldn't get 9 for vocabulary because he just used people, right? So yeah, definitely we could say walkers, drivers, you know, that would definitely move up the score in those terms. But he would still get a low score. Look again at the graph.
Let's talk about the method of how people travel.
That's true, but that doesn't explain why. No. No, well, English people, yeah, but still no. So, does this mean 51 people?
No, millions. The average.
What does it mean? 51 what? Ah, yes. This guy who wrote this essay thought that these numbers were numbers of people, but they're not. It says here, distance in miles. What did he forget to do? He forgot to read every detail and really understand what the numbers mean. So let's take a look at what happened because he missed that. IELTS 4.0. How many people want 4.0? Nobody, right? Parts may be unclear, irrelevant. This is definitely irrelevant. There's nothing talking about numbers of people. Okay, so this actually gets him closer to an IELTS 4. So let's look at a possible scoring for this essay. Okay, LR was vocabulary, probably about a 6.5. We said he did a good job with all the, remember, increase and decrease and all those things, but like was said over here, it was people. Could have been a little bit, and also by train, he could have said by rail. Could be a little bit more flexible. Coherence and cohesion. Well, part of the problem with this, with the CC, is that he lost marks because of no introduction and no paragraphs. Okay? Grammar. It was okay, actually. There's quite a few mistakes in here. For example, here's period and where with no capital. Okay? number of people should be the number of people. So a few grammar mistakes, but not too bad. Task accomplishment is really low because he didn't, notice it says, covers the requirements of the task. Okay? Well, he missed that because he didn't understand, he confused people and miles. Okay? So probably a total for this essay is going to be more like 5.0. Okay? Maybe 5.5. He did pretty good in these parts. His vocabulary was really good except for those things, but he made these two big mistakes, people and no paragraphs, really lowered his score. I think these two things are the main reason why somebody who is really good at English, and you've improved your writing a lot, right? Maybe you're in an advanced level of academic English class, right? Your grammar is getting better, vocabulary getting better, but your IELTS score in writing is 5.5. Right? How do you make sure it's going up? I think for most students, in my experience, is these two things. Organization, understanding very clearly what you're talking about, what the numbers mean. Okay? It's going to get loud here in a minute, I think. So, as I said, my next tip is saying a lot of students that I've taught, their low scores are because of the wrong interpretations or poor organization. Let's look at this and see how it could be better. Okay, so here's another example of a question. Okay, we're going to look at everything. So just quickly, we have a chart here. We have a graph here, and we have a table here. Okay? So we've got to talk about all of that. Okay? Without reading this, I'm going to show you a very good answer, and we'll look at how they made the good answer. Look at the top. So when you start part one, start by telling what does the graph show. Okay, it has to be just a simple sentence. The graph shows how the amount of water used changed between 1900 and 2000. Okay, and then go on. Next, talk about something very general. Okay, so a general observation is, just go back to the chart quickly, I would say, oh wow, look, there's a kind of a separation here, right? Agriculture is different and industrial and domestic is separate. There's a separation, so there's my groups. In general, I want to say the largest was for agriculture. Now be specific. Okay, talk about how it changed. So I said it increased dramatically. Ding, 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 nice words. Okay, now 500 to 3,000 cubic kilometers. I'm giving the detail about that. And now I'm going to compare it with something else. Okay, so it was far below the levels of consumption by agriculture. Okay, so these are the steps for this part. Okay, what does the graph show? Then, on the first part of the paragraph, a general observation. Then, give a detail about that, and then compare it to something else in the graph. Okay, going back, we're going to repeat this because we now have the table as well. So next, a sentence showing what does the table show. General sentence. A huge amount of water is used in agriculture in Brazil. Okay, just a lot. It's very general. Detail. How much? And finally, they compare Brazil and the Congo. Okay? So actually, it's a very simple formula you can use for this. Okay? General, detail, and then compare. Okay? If you do that, you can have an excellent answer like this one here. Okay, this is an example of an answer that could get a 9.
IELTS 6 or 5.
You've read a lot of books. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. They're good books because you can see an example response of a good one and a not so good one. Okay? And you do want to study both. If you study what you can do wrong, then don't do that. Study a perfect example and do that. Okay? Okay, so there's that. Okay, let's go on to talk about writing test part 2. It's the essay. Okay, now you guys of course have probably studied writing essays a lot. Okay, we're going to have a look at this question and the task. Okay, you have the question. The time is 40 minutes for this. Most people already took 30 minutes doing part 1, and now they only have 30 minutes for the next part. So don't make that mistake. 250 words. Okay, that's difficult. Okay, but not as bad as TOEFL. You only have 30 minutes in TOEFL. Okay, you're going to write your answer here and continue on the back. Okay, for part 2, the IELTS score requirements are the same as part 1, except there's a few different things, of course. These are the public versions. But one thing is a clear position throughout the response. What does it mean, position?
You know what the items are.
Yeah, you know what the writer's
Position.
position. What's a synonym?
Opinion.
Opinion, good. So you're going to have your opinion, and you continue this opinion throughout your writing. Okay? A clear central topic within each paragraph. So don't try to talk about too many things at the same time. It should be one topic and then new paragraph separated. Okay, so everybody here, you guys have studied how to do an academic essay, right? I'm sure everybody studied this about introduction, body 1, 2, 3, and conclusion. So you should make sure to do an essay like this on the IELTS test, right? No. What's wrong with this kind of essay?
Each question has different type.
Each question has a different type. That's true. That's true.
And your position.
I think I heard the correct answer over here. Long. It's long. This is a time trap in IELTS. People will try to write the essay that you guys have, we always study in. I studied this kind of essay in public school, right? Okay, it's a time trap. You don't have time to do a 5-paragraph essay. Get rid of one. You don't need it. Okay? Trust me, I know people who have written 4-paragraph essays on IELTS and gotten a perfect score. Okay? So really, you don't need to write 5 paragraphs. 4 is actually better. And the reason why I say this is because if we're looking at this, if you write introduction, body 1, body 2, body 3, and my time is almost finished, and that's the reason why I think this way. Your conclusion is 1 sentence, or 2 sentences. Right? Your conclusion doesn't have to be long, but it has to be strong. Because the last part is part of the organization. It's strong beginning, strong finish. If you're running out of time and you're writing this conclusion really quickly, it's going to be weak, and your score goes down. Okay? Also, if you try to do 3 different reasons, if you're doing an argumentative essay, you try to do 3 different reasons, probably you don't have enough time to support those reasons. Right? It's better to have only 2 reasons and really explain them more than if you try to make 3 different reasons. It takes a long time to think about another reason. Okay? You're wasting time with that, and you're using your time for making a good conclusion and putting extra support in these paragraphs. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at an example question. And what we have to do, make sure you don't miss part of the question. So there's always going to be more than one question you have to answer. In this case, successful sports professionals can earn a great deal more money than people in other important professions. Some people think this is fully justified, while others think it is unfair. discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Okay? So, how many things do I have to write about? 2? It's 3, right? Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. That's 3 things that I have to write about. And 2 things that I must include. Every question has this, so sometimes we don't read it, but it's really, really important. It's part of the question. Reasons, examples. If you don't have reasons or you don't have examples, you can't get a 7 for sure. Okay, here's an example as well from, it's from one of the Cambridge IELTS books, showing you the example of a very good response. Okay, let's take a look at what this person did, because it's going to be really useful for your organization. Okay, notice first they introduced the topic. Okay, but they didn't just talk about sports stars making a lot of money, right? They didn't say they make a lot of money, because the question said they make a lot of money. They rephrased, they changed the words. Instead, what does it say?
Extravagant lifestyle.
Sorry?
Extravagant lifestyles.
Yeah, extravagant lifestyles. Actually, this is kind of adding relevance or expanding the topic a little bit more, yeah. And that shows extravagant, is like rich, right? You want to change the wording. Okay. And adding relevance. They live extravagant lifestyles, like huge houses and cars. Okay, that's adding something the question didn't talk about. Okay, so already we're adding a little bit. Next, we tell one view. So it said, discuss both of these views and give your own opinion. So first we tell one view. So this is paragraph 2. Tell one view, give a reason. Okay, why is it unfair for sports people to pay so much money? Well, because some people make more contribution to society, like a doctor. And politicians and doctors are examples that they gave. Okay? So my paragraph has one view, a reason, and examples. Let's look at the next paragraph. Those who feel that sports stars salarified are justified is telling the other view. The reason is because they need to be dedicated. It's difficult to be a professional sports star or Olympic athlete. Dedication. Example, a player is tested every time they perform. Their career is very short. Here are some examples to show the dedication that they need. Okay? So now we can say this is a good, well-developed paragraph with progression. And that's the word on the IELTS scoring system. Okay? Progression means opinion, reason, examples. Right? And it's also developed well, so it has all the support there. So what's left? The last paragraph is the conclusion. I tell my view. Okay? So conclusion doesn't always have to be just summarize repeat everything I said before. Okay? But conclusion is my view on it. Some people feel this way, some people feel this way. In conclusion, I feel this way. Okay? And it gives a little bit of reasons and everything there too. Okay, any questions about this essay? Yes?
Like in the last paragraph, you use personally, and I think that, for my opinion, I think it has the same meaning. Personally, I think that.
That's true, that's true. It's just adding a little bit of flavor. It doesn't sound, it sounds okay, like it sounds natural.
Yeah, it sounds okay,
Yeah.
but my point is, it has the same meaning, that's all.
Yeah. It's just adding another, because there's a comma here and you can separate this off, it gives that nice kind of connection to here. Before I was talking, it's clear to see before I was only talking about other people's opinion, and now I'm talking about mine. So it's another one of those marker words that tells the reader something special is coming. So it actually has a little bit more flavor and power than than if we don't have it and just I think. So yeah, you're right. It's a little bit redundant. We don't need it, but it adds a little bit of something. It's hard to explain. You know, it's more like you can tell a native speaker wrote this. Any other questions? Yes. Personally, I believe that. Yeah, it sounds a little bit stronger, but you just want to add variety. So it's not always I think, I believe. That's good. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so what about the question of the weight? Okay, we have writing test part 1, writing test part 2. Are they worth the same amount of marks? So you say no. So which one's worth more marks?
That's it's almost 2/3.
Well, actually,
It is. I know it is unknown exactly, but
well, actually, they're about the same. Okay. So the points you get for part 1, I know a lot of textbooks actually say part 2 has more marks than part 1. So if part 2 I get a 6, part 1 I get 4, my score is 5.5. No, it's probably 5. Okay. But the key here is, and why do textbooks say part 2 is more important? Well, it's because it's longer. You need to do more to get the marks, right? So we can't spend an equal time on both. If I spend an equal time and energy on part 1 and part 2, my score for part 2 will definitely be lower. Okay? So actually, it's one of the traps in the IELTS test is a lot of people will spend too long on part 1 and not enough time to finish part 2. But the best way that you can practice this is when you're doing any assignment for your classes, right? Time yourself. When you practice writing your essays, a lot of students, you don't want to take so long, but you'll take an hour and a half or 2 hours to write an essay at home. Okay? It's a great practice for university, but it's not good practice for IELTS. And it's also not good practice for university examination. In university, you're going to have to write an essay in an exam in a very short time. And on the IELTS test, you have to do the same. Okay, so when you're at home, give yourself the same time as on the IELTS, or shorter. Okay. Does anybody watch baseball? Not boring, right? Yeah. In baseball, before the guy goes up to hit, often he's going to have 2 bats, swinging 2 bats. Why did they do this?
warm up.
It's warming up, right? Warm up the muscles.
To be faster.
Yeah, to be faster. Why is it faster? He practices with 2. He practices swinging with 2 bats, right? It's heavy. And what happens when he puts one down and he goes to the plate? Whew, well, that's really easy, right? Do the same thing when you're training for the IELTS. IELTS test part 2, you have to write the essay in 40 minutes. So at home, how much time will you give yourself?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Whoa, that's really short. But yeah, start stepping down. Don't go to 30 right away. But try 40 minutes. Next time, if 40 is difficult, start with 45, but go down. Okay? Go to 38 minutes, 36 minutes, 35 minutes. Okay? Train at a shorter time, and then when you go to the exam, you'll feel like you have a long time. Most people, they feel like the exam time is so short. So practice at home with even shorter time, challenge yourself, and push forward. Okay? I'm going to go on quickly to IELTS speaking, just so we have some time to talk about that. It'll probably, for anybody who's wondering, it'll probably take about 15 minutes. Okay? So this is a picture of your desk at the test center. It's going to have your photo, and we'll also tell you a little bit of information on there. the one thing that's going to help you is just looking at the paper. Here it tells you when your speaking test is. Okay? It's because you do the reading, listening, and writing test all at the same time, a short break in between. And then the speaking test will be later after lunch. Okay? Okay? Sometimes it's going to be on a different day. It depends on the test center. So you're going to see the speaking test date and time there. It'll help you just mentally prepare for when you need to go. 14:45 means 2 o'clock. Just in case you don't know, just easy way. This is 2:45 p.m. Okay? And then before 2:45 p.m., you want to speak to the staff in the exam center and ask them, where do I go for my speaking test? Because you're going to go to a specific room, and they'll help you to find it. Okay? This is what it's going to look like at the test center. That's the speaking test room, and you're going to sit in the chair and wait for your turn. This tells you the room number, that's how you find it. Okay, when you go into the room, this is the examiner. This is you, very nervous before you go to speak to the examiner. Okay, and just a quick note, what's this?
Record.
Yeah, it's one of these, right? So try to ignore it, okay? Don't worry that they're recording your voice. Why do they record your speaking?
To watch the
Mark the examiner.
It is, a little bit is for examiner quality control. So they're going to make sure that the examiner is marking you correctly so it's fair. And there's another reason though.
review of the
Pardon?
So review of the lesson.
Yeah. Well, it's in case of a rescore.
Oh.
Okay? So what it means is, if you feel there was something unfair about your test, right? The examiner was speaking too quickly for me to understand, or didn't give me enough time for something, you can actually ask for them to rescore your exam. Okay? For reading and listening, it's on the computer. The score never changes. Okay? For speaking and writing, though, what they're going to do is they're going to send your essay or send your recording over to Cambridge University in the UK. And somebody over there is going to check it. Okay?
It's for free?
No. Well, yes and no. If your score is the same, or your score goes down, you have the $140 it costs. Yeah. Okay? If there was a mistake and your score goes up, then you get refunded the money.
Found what I give for the test, like 285.
No.
Or the it's like a budget.
So when you want them to rescore you, you pay $140, and then if your score is the same or lower, actually your score doesn't change. So even if their score is lower, your score will not change, and you paid $140. Okay? If they made a mistake and your score goes up, you're going to get a new result, and you get the $140 back. Okay? So usually they're pretty accurate, but if you feel there was something wrong, it's an option you might take. I don't recommend you do it if you need a 7 or you need a 6.5 and your score is 5.5. It's probably not going to change. But if you're that close, right? Your score was 6 and you need 6.5, right? It's something you might try. Okay? Just for the speaking and the writing parts. You never know. Okay? So that's up to you. It is an option that you have. We'll talk quickly about the speaking test. So the first part, there's how many parts of the speaking test?
3.
3 parts, good. The first part is general life questions. So they're going to ask you something silly like, what do you like most about your hometown? Okay? What's the shortcut key to get to the desktop?
Starting.
Start in D. Yeah, good, thank you. I'm just going to show you a short example of the speaking test. I think it's really useful for you to see so that you can just get an example of what's going to happen in the speaking test, and we can look at what you can do right and what you can do wrong.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jude Harvey. Can you tell me your full name, please? My name is Inni Hop. Thank you. And can you tell me where you're from, Inni? I'm from South Korea. Can I see your identification, please? Thank you. That's fine. Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Tell me about your hometown.
There are lots of exciting places. One of them is the most interesting places is theaters. So in town, there are lots of theaters. So we can enjoy any kinds of plays.
Is Seoul a popular place for touring?
Yeah. How's she doing so far?
Not bad.
Oh, you guys are very nice.
Actually, see, she's using some, like places are, she's using places is.
Yeah, there's a few grammar mistakes. I think, yeah, the grammar, but also the repeating is not good in this section, right? She said the theaters, such as theaters, and she repeated herself a couple times, right? Why? No, she's nervous, right? Okay. What I want to tell you here is, yeah, it's not a good start, okay? Because she's repeating herself, but it happens. And the examiner knows that you're nervous at the beginning. You're not going to, if you can recover after, then you're going to be fine, okay? So it's not a great start, but if she gets better, she'll still get a good score.
Places to visit.
Yes, there are some places, especially we have palaces in Seoul. So it is very antique. They are very antique and special places. So lots of foreigners visit there.
She made another grammar mistake, and then there are. Is that okay?
In the I think in the part one, yeah, it's okay because they are not trying to not make a cross eye about pronunciations and the grammar.
Yeah, actually, I agree about pronunciation a little bit, but grammar, I think that they are checking a lot in part one. But yeah, so she made a mistake, and then she corrected herself. There are. Which is better? Just continue or correct yourself?
Correct.
Well, I think it's good to correct yourself. You know, if you notice the mistake right away, don't go back a lot, and don't do it too much, because then you can't show your fluency. It's okay to make a couple mistakes. It's okay to correct yourself, but if you do it all the time, then you're talking really slowly and you can't completely answer the questions.
And has Seoul changed much in recent years?
Yes, of course. 10 years ago, we didn't have convenient public transport, but now it is very developed, so we can use them very comfortably, and there are very big buildings.
Let's talk about...
How's that part?
She recovered.
Yeah, I would say she recovered. She's doing a lot better now. There's still something that she can do better. She's missing something that they're really looking for in part 1. I'm just going to go and show you a different... Now she used some good expressions. Right? There are big buildings, it's very convenient, conveniently located. Okay, you want to be using the combinations of words.
Good morning.
We're just going to skip through a little bit.
Columns that are less popular because all the city is every time it's not.
Let's start here.
Now, in this part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Fine. Now, in this part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Fine. Now, in this part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Fine.
I confused the computer.
It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and so I like very much everything. But probably I like more the colors that are less popular because all the city is every time in every period of the year full of tourists. So sometimes it could be quite difficult to move and to have a normal life. But in this corner, less popular, it's easier, and I think they are nice.
And has Venice changed much in recent years?
The change, he doesn't really change. The only change is that every year we have more tourists. So it's going to become every year a more touristy place, and and less people live inside Venice. That's the change.
Okay, how about this guy? What did he do really well?
Not that.
Grammar.
You have a lot of grammar mistakes.
Can you repeat some things?
Yeah, corner.
Yeah, a lot of repetition, some hesitation, right? He was trying to think of the exact way to say something instead of just talking. Right? Just talk. There's one thing, remember the man asked, has Venice changed much recently? And he said, it doesn't change. The same with the girl, in me. Has Seoul changed a lot recently? And she talked about the past. Okay? Let's see if I have something. So a really important speaking tip is to know that in part 1, they're trying to cover a lot of different verb tenses. Okay? So notice the question again. He asked, has Venice changed a lot recently, or in recent years? Okay? What is the verb tense? Present perfect, exactly. The examiner is listening. Are you going to be using present perfect or different verb tenses in your speech? The question is designed to see, can you express these times in your answer? Okay? So, what's the best answer for this question? Oh yeah, Toronto has changed a lot recently. Okay, what did I do? I just copied what he said. Okay? So, copy the verb tense in the question. Has Toronto changed a lot? Yes. Right? There have been a lot of changes. Okay? Toronto used to be a much quieter city. Right? And actually the subway used to be very clean, but nowadays the subway is really slow. Right? It's hard to get places on time and there's a lot of traffic. Okay? I use 3 different verb tenses in my speaking. It has changed, it used to be, is past, and now it is, or it's becoming more and more crowded. Okay? They're listening for that variety, so make sure you show it. Where did you grow up? Okay? Is an excellent chance to use used to. Right? Okay. Well, I was born in Toronto, but I used to live in Australia, and now I live in Toronto again. What do you enjoy about your studies? What school are you studying at? Okay, it's continuous, right? I'm taking courses at Ryerson. What type of job would you like to have in the future? Is asking about the future. So you'll actually see them ask many questions of all different time periods, and they're going to be checking your verb tenses. Okay, so make sure you think about if they're asking about the past, present, or future, use the correct tense. What are they going to ask you about? Well, they're always going to ask you about yourself. Okay? These are the topics that they're going to talk about. And they're going to ask you about you. So make sure to practice talking about these topics with your friends. Okay? So actually the next thing they asked about was taking pictures. We're going to go really quickly to part 2. I'll actually skip the video for this, just so I can share with you really important strategy. They told me I only have 5 minutes left. There's so much I want to tell you guys, but we'll go through this so I can give you this strategy, because I think this is really... Part 2 is pretty tricky. So you'll get a card that gives you a topic and a question with some points that you need to talk about. So there are 3 points here we need to talk about, correct?
3.
Incorrect.
No, 4. There is the last one.
Don't forget, there's another one here at the bottom. Okay? So you should definitely have enough to say. Okay? The way that we teach at Global Village is I call the 4-square method. So our GB 4-square method means they're going to give you a piece of paper and a pencil to get ready. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. Make 2 lines, right? Or just go like this. And now you have 4 things. There's 4 points. Who the friends are. Friends from high school. Explain why you remember the day so well. I won $1 million. Not a true story, unfortunately. Write everything quickly so that I have the basics of what I want to say. 4 points. That means I have I know what I'm going to talk about. And now I still have 1 minute to think about it. That took maybe 20 seconds. So what do I do for the next 40 seconds? Now write down some vocabulary, right? Some strong vocabulary that I can use for each of these things. Okay? Write down some words that I want to use when I talk about it. Okay? That's the best way to use your time very effectively. Okay? And then you're never going to run out of things to say. Okay? And you'll make sure that you cover all of the points. Is that important, that I cover all of these points?
Just part of the task completion.
Yes and no, again. Okay? If I talk about this, this, and this, and I stop talking, and it's only 50 seconds, then yeah, that's really bad. Talk about this so you fill the time at least, right? But if I'm talking for a long time, and after 2 minutes I'm still talking about this one, and the examiner will say, okay, thank you. Right? There's no penalty for that. Right? As long as you stay to the topic. So you mentioned task completion. I have to stay to the topic, right? If I only get to here, yeah, I probably didn't complete the task very well. But don't worry if the examiner says stop. Okay? As long as you continue talking on the right topic, then you'll be okay. All right? It should be organized. So try to say, oh, okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about, give an introduction, and and start talking in order. Okay? And that's why when we do this 4-square method, we write down the basic thing first, so we cover everything, and then write down some details with good vocabulary I want to show. Okay? Okay, the final part of the speaking test, they're going to ask you some questions like, what do people enjoy doing when they visit rivers, lakes, or the sea? Okay, this is a really strange question. Not really a common conversation topic. What do you like doing when you go to a river? Right? Very strange, but this is the kind of typical IELTS question. Okay? The key here is that it's a discussion. Okay? And the video I was going to show, she answers the questions. So, I think people like going swimming or fishing. Okay? But that's not the style that they're looking for. And it's a little bit unnatural because it says discussion, but the examiner is not talking very much. So but it should be like a two-way discussion. Okay? So when you're talking, pretend you're talking to your friend, right? So you know how some people really like going to the seaside and to the beach because they can go swimming and everything like that. Well, for me, I actually try to avoid the beach because it's really crowded and it's sunny. But I know a lot of people like to go there for this reason. Okay, talk like you're telling a story to somebody because it's supposed to be a discussion. My last tip about the speaking test is, I think it might be on here. Relax. No, relax, yeah, of course, you want to relax. Remember that there's a limited time for the speaking test, okay? Don't give a short answer for every question, okay? They expect you, like the writing test, give a reason, give an example, okay? What do people like doing when they go to the sea? Oh, a lot of people like going surfing. For example, I went to Australia last year, and I went surfing there, but there were a lot of other people just sunbathing or riding a boogie board, so talk about it like that. Okay? For me, I've just been to Australia, so maybe I can say a lot of things, and I have a lot of vocabulary about water sports. Talk about that a little bit longer. Okay? If you get a question that's not very familiar to you, then give a short answer for that question, and the next question is going to be maybe more in your experience. Okay? So my advice is, when you get a question that's in your area, okay? I'm a science student, so I like to talk about science. I have a lot of vocabulary about, so if you have a lot of vocabulary about computers, you studied computers, and they ask you a computer question, bingo! Don't stop talking, right? Give more, show everything that you know about computers. Right? But then if they ask you a question about fashion, and you don't really have a lot of vocabulary about clothes and fashion, it's okay to give a shorter answer and get to a question that's better for you. Okay? But just don't give a short answer for everything. You need to give some examples and try. Okay? Okay, so, yeah, again, always give your opinion and give reasons for that opinion. They want you to justify it. Okay, adding examples is a way you can talk about it. Okay, this is how you can register for the test. Useful website is IELTStoronto.com. That's where you see the dates of the test and which ones are available. There's some instructions on the website as well. At Global Village we have the test, and we also have courses for IELTS preparation. And as I mentioned, I'm the one who teaches the teachers how to teach our courses. So if you guys are looking for some courses, please, my contact information is on the sheet. So please send us an email and let us know. Just want to finish today by mentioning, we talked about goals, and we said, you know, a lot of people say, my goal is to have this piece of paper to say, I got 7 on my IELTS test. But remember what I told you today, think deeper than that, right? Why are you doing this? Is it for your family, for money, so you can buy a big house? What's your real dream, right? I think somebody told me there's a proverb from Arabic that has a meaning something like, you know, don't worry if you're tired, right? Your strength will be the amount of your desire, right? Maybe you can translate. I don't know how to say it in Arabic. If you really, really want this, and you know why you want this, then you're going to be much stronger and get a better score on the exam. The only other part is being clear. You need to be very clear on what is in the exam and what you need to do to get a 7. And that's why today I gave you this piece of paper. This is what IELTS test is looking for to get you that score 7. So study this and know what you need to do to achieve it. Find out your real reason why you want it. And I know that everybody here can be successful and get the score you need for IELTS. Okay, go for it, guys. Thank you very much for listening. And have a good evening. Hope to see you sometime in the future. Thanks. Yes, I have some extra